why don't we just segue right into that? So that's the whole concept. Observation to save you time and money. What's that all about?
Yeah, and that's where it really adds up. I'll give you the example. My classic example is I used to paint the trunks. Why? Because everybody painted trunks to prevent sun scald. And what's sun scald? It's basically a sunburn on the trunk of a tree. And these last few nights have been perfect temperature for trees to get sun scald, which means you have above zero in the day, you have a total snow cover, so it's so really white, and then it's a clear sky, and the temperature, as soon as sun goes down, you can feel it dropping, and 2 hours later, it's already like -10. Then it goes to -15. Well, if you, and I've thermometered a trunk of a tree like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it's in the setting sun, and it's always a southwest, it's called southwest injury, southwest angle of the tree, that bark will reach 20 degrees. Like you put it, you feel it, and it's like, wow, it's really warm. The backside is not 20 degrees, and because it's been in the shade. So when you add the temperature difference dropping, the tree doesn't cool off that fast. I mean, wood is a good insulator, so it keeps that heat for a while. And then you end up with a difference in the bark temperature from the front to the back. And that temperature causes a crack. And sometimes it's not just a crack, it's an actual, the bark just separates off the trunk.
Okay.
Because it's so hot, and the other side is so cold that it's like ice cracking. When it's cold, it cracks. So the bark will do the same. It can crack. And so I used to paint the trunks. It was 4 days a year because I'd have to
paint it white.
Yeah, painted white so it reflects, and then it doesn't get so hot. That was like the whole idea.
Like the birch tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I used to do. I used to paint them. And I remember going by and painting these trees. And one tree I couldn't kind of paint because there was a shrub around it. And I just passed it by because there was too many branches, so I didn't paint it. And then one year I just came by to paint, and I thought, look at this. I never painted this tree, and yet
I never need to.
I don't need to. That tree never got sun scald. And I thought, what would happen if I deliberately planted a shrub to the southwest of every tree? And I thought, you know what, I can go one further, because that was a red twig dogwood, which is fine, but it's not a crop tree or a shrub. And so I thought, what happens if I put some of the ones we're using, whether it's currant or black currant or hascap or gooseberry or something like that. Don't do gooseberry because that's the southwest, and the shrub needs a little more shade. So I tried it, and we did it, and gee, it's the only trees now that get it are the ones where the shrub has died out for whatever reason, and I didn't replant. So we do get a few trees had sun scald, and it's always the ones that don't have a shrub, because if they've got one, it just doesn't get it. So if I think, over the years, how much time and money that one observation has saved me, huge.
Yeah.
Walking your property and understanding, hey, how wet is it here? Or, hey, and I always say, I did a video a while ago on observe during the extremes. You think, oh, it's way too windy. Go out there. Oh, it's just too cold today. Go out there. Like, go out in the extreme periods, rain, wind, snow, sun, whatever it is, whatever is a normal day. No, normal day, that's not going to teach you that much. But on an extreme day, you will really learn a lot, because you'll say, hey, look at that. I remember walking the orchard in spring, and we'd get a late frost. And that's when I learned that kiwis growing right on the tree wouldn't suffer that last frost, even if their leaves had come out. But the one just 3 meters away in the open, if I had a kiwi growing there, ding, completely frosted. And I was like, wow, I guess kiwis know they want to grow up a tree on the base of a tree. So we plant all our kiwis and now our grapes at the base of our nitrogen fixing trees, because that's, you learn that by observing. And
I
then
see.
that saves you, it saves you months and years of crop growth. So we really could, and everybody can do it. Like you just have to be out there.
Just go out there.
Yeah, and frosts are a good time because a lot happens because of frost. So you think, oh, it's cold this morning. Then get out there. If it's cold, get out there and look and see and learn.
I think so. I've got fruit bushes on the south side of my apple trees, and I'm pretty sure I put them there because of a video of yours that I watched. That idea. I mean, I didn't do southwest. I just south in general. But that, you know, the angle's coming intensely from that in the winter. But it made perfect sense to me, right? Also, it's different heights, so I mean, you know, it's not going to block. You know, they're just going to work out well. They're going to be good neighbors. And then in front of that, I got you know, strawberries. You know, I got strawberry, blueberry, apple, right? South is that way. It just works. And I agree with you that just this weekend I was out in my garden. Um, you know, I brought pruners out, but I didn't actually prune in the garden. I was pruning trees that surround the garden that shade it, just looking at the shade. And like you said in a video we did before, if you're really itching to prune, you know, to prune something else. So I was kind of doing some stuff like that. But also, I mean, I was outside for about 3 hours on Sunday and I did very little work. I did a lot of just like even the stuff in my garden that I need to prune or thinking about pruning, I didn't prune it. I just looked at it. And then I was looking at other things and looking at this, just looking and thinking and looking. And I remember thinking, boy, I'm not really getting much done. And then I was like, no, this is gardening. This is part of it. You just got to look and think and remember and plan and just remember the previous years and, you know, catalog your observations. And I mean, you're just you're a clever human trying to figure it out. So yeah, it's such a big part of it. And if you do, you know, it seems like a waste of time, but I think it's money in the bank because you're going to save a lot of work down the road because you're going to, you know, you're going to do things that make sense because so you're going to be laying in bed later on that night and you're trying to get to sleep and you're thinking, you know, if you're like me, maybe you're thinking about, I mean, you could be thinking about something else, but maybe you're thinking about your garden and thinking about stuff you saw and I got a good idea, you know. So yeah, I completely agree.
We cheat, Greg, because you and I both have some gray hairs. And I find that as you get older, you don't look at that observation as wasted time. You know what you said? Because certainly when I was in my 30s and 40s, sitting down for
Do
2
something.
hours, yeah, that's like, no, can't do that. You feel compelled, like you have to do something. So I would say if you have a problem with that, your younger audience, set a timer and just give yourself, try 15 minutes. Just sit there. Don't do any, like you're doing something, but don't be moving around. Just, or you could walk around, but just observe. And like it, we have one whole course in the master class is that teaching you how to observe, because it really, you know, people, I guess in the past, and I know that the most observational I've been has been when I used to hunt. I used to hunt a lot.
Right.
And that really hones that skill
Yes.
because everything matters. Like
Yes.
everything matters. You just, you know, something, and how many times, I'm sure you've had it. I think you said you've used to, or you do hunt and fish.
I hunt fish.
And
Yeah.
when you're walking, there's sometimes you're walking and I like that the Spider-Man, they'd say your spidey sense.
Yeah.
You're walking and you just stop because you know you're being watched. Like you can tell, and people have done it in psychology, the experiment where somebody from the, you know, from the other side of the room is looking at you and looking at the back of you. And you'll stop and you'll feel like you just feel somebody's, that look, that gaze actually projects an energy that's strong enough that you could perceive it. And not only people perceived it, but they knew what direction it was coming from. Like you think, how do you know? And you'd turn around and you'd look exactly where that person was looking at you from. Like, how does that happen? And the same happens out in nature. If you're walking and you think something's watching me, And if you stop, and sometimes it's taken me 10 or 15 minutes, and it's just a staring contest because they're still looking at you and you're looking, where the heck is this thing? And you just know, you don't know where, but finding an animal that's a master of hiding, and next thing you know, well, there's a rabbit's been watching you the whole time. He's sitting right there, and you go, oh my God. I've I've had it where I was walking along a trail and I stopped, and it was like, something's here. I know something's here. And I just looked and looked, and it happened to be not 3 feet away from me. I mean, a meter away, there was a duck sitting on her eggs right there by the trail.
Oh, really?
And it was so perfectly camouflaged. So I stopped and I'm looking at it, and I realized there's 100, 200 people walking by this trail. That duck has been sitting there for maybe a couple weeks and is never, like, it'll sit tight. So as somebody was walking by, I said, did you see this duck? They said, no, where? You're right here. So I just go like that, like from a distance, just because I didn't want to put my hand close to it. And they were looking and they're saying, where? Like right there. You see that stick? You see that branch? You see that? And they're looking. And it would take them 5 minutes to see it. But once you saw it, it was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh. And then they'd say to somebody else, do you see that duck? And they'd like, come on, how can you not see it? And then you'd remind them, you don't worry, it's not that easy. It took you 5 minutes. Anyway.
I found that like I have a little, in the center of my garden, I have a little bench that I put, and I mainly put it for filming. Just, I'll
Okay.
say, hey, it's this date, and today we're going to start the video there, and I often end it there. But I'll also go and sit on that bench and have a beer. And just, so, I mean, the reason I'm bringing it up is for the thing we're talking about right now, observing is, I would recommend anyone get a place to sit in your garden, put it somewhere where you can see as much of the garden as possible. And, whatever, it's a cup of tea or a coffee in the morning, or a beer in the afternoon, whatever, right? But sit down, and when you go out to garden, just sit down with something like that, tea, coffee, beer, whatever you like, and just be quiet for 10, 15 minutes and just